Hey everybody, welcome to today's video where we're going to break down that bombshell testimony from Capricorn Clark. Bombshells were flying on both sides. It's worth saying up front that Capricorn Clark was there back in the early days, the early 2000s before Cassie.
Capricorn Clark testified a lot about just her experience working with Diddy, the difficulty of working for Diddy. She talked about long hours, right? Extreme pressure. Didn't she say she hated it there?
Yeah, Jesse, as far as just the long hours that she would work, again, this was something that we had heard from other assistants, including George Kaplan, including David James. Now we're hearing it from Capricorn Clark, too. She said just the pressure. She ended up getting stress-induced alopecia just from working as Diddy's personal assistant, to the point she even went to a doctor, and the doctor was essentially like, you got to calm down, you got to relieve this stress some way. We've heard from other assistants, too, again, David James, again, George Kaplan, just about hotel stays and that they would kind of set up the hotel rooms. But I thought it was interesting hearing about this from Capricorn Clark because, again, thinking about this time frame, 2004 to 2006, she was already setting up hotel rooms, and this was prior to the Cassie relationship because, according to Capricorn Clark, she was setting up hotel rooms that Diddy would even stay at with Kim Porter, and he would stay with Kim Porter about once a week. She was asked to pack and unpack things. She said that some of the aliases used for Diddy's girlfriends at the time, again, this before Cassie, was Jackie Star, surprisingly a name that Cassie had used as one of her aliases. And the names that Diddy was still booking hotel rooms under were Frank Black, Frank White. But according to Capricorn, she said some of her duties even included unpacking Diddy's clothes, his shoes, but also his toiletry bag, something that was a Louis Vuitton bag. And she said what was in the Louis Vuitton bag beyond toiletries were drugs, including drugs like ecstasy. And according to Capricorn Clark, ecstasy was kind of a big drug that Diddy was using a lot of the time while she was working with him. But she said she also was told to unpack a camera box. And she said inside the camera box was a camera, but also it was other items like lube and baby oil. Again, this going back all the way to the 2004-2006 time frame, and that Diddy brought this camera box and toiletry bag every hotel stay that he had went to, and that Diddy would stay in hotels for a few days on end. Again, kind of playing into what Cassie was talking about, but this predating her.
Defense and prosecution, I'm not sure whose case she helped more. Now, Capricorn Clark's testimony is supposed to help strengthen these racketeering charges with the false imprisonment, kidnapping, and she says she experienced a lot of this as well. Capricorn Clark alleges that Diddy threatened her life the first day of her job, like the first day through the interviewing phase. So that's pretty rough. And Capricorn Clark is Diddy's former assistant, personal assistant. Give you some context. This is the way she looked with Diddy in the early days and when she was helping Cassie with her styling and kind of like a right hand to Cassie. See her here with her courtroom attire. Capricorn Clark was all in the mix during this love triangle mess between Diddy, Kid Cudi, and Cassie. She saw a lot. A lot of things line up in their testimony, each one's testimony, but a lot of things do not line up. We're going to see what the good people over at Law and Crime had to say about it, but there's something strange about the whole
Threats,
thing.
forced polygraphs, a gun, and a plan to kill Kid Cudi. These are allegations a jury just heard from Capricorn Clark, a former Diddy employee whose testimony could be key to proving the racketeering case against the hip-hop mogul. Diddy Combs' former employee, Capricorn Clark, detailed a years-long pattern of alleged intimidation, violent outbursts, workplace abuse, all while working for the hip-hop mogul. And you know why her testimony is so important? Because Clark, who served as Combs' personal assistant and later as Cassandra Ventura's creative director, she arguably helps prove the racketeering charge in this case. More specifically, the underlying kidnapping, arson, maybe even forced labor underlying crimes that support the pattern of racketeering activity. Remember, prosecutors need to prove at least 2 underlying crimes to get the racketeering count. And what she apparently told these jurors was a lot. Even that Combs allegedly threatened to kill her, that she was forced to take a lie detector test. So Capricorn Clark, we knew she was going to take the stand after the explosive testimony from Kid Cudi last week where he mentioned her. Before we even get into any specifics about her testimony, just remind our audience who she is exactly, how she even got involved with the Sean Combs enterprise, or that's more of a legal term if we're talking about a criminal enterprise, the Sean Combs business. How about that?
Well, Capricorn Clark is a name that we've been hearing about a number of times, right? We know that she had been working under Diddy's employment for a number of years, but she really kind of broke it down today just as far as what position that she had held at which time. So when she was first brought on to kind of the bad boy orbit, or the Diddy orbit, we could also say, this was around the 2004 to 2006 timeframe when Capricorn Clark was just Diddy's assistant at the time. But then after a couple promotions, she went on to become the director of marketing. She worked for the women's department of Sean John. And then she went on to global branding, and something that she had held as a position from about 2008 to 2012. Then there was some time lapse because a lot of things had happened after that time period. But around 2016 to 2018, she was rehired again, and she was hired actually this time to work as Cassie's brand director. So she had worked pretty much kind of from the ground up, in a way, if you think about it, from just an executive assistant role all the way up until she was essentially just kind of monitoring, or at least managing, Cassie's brand, how she looked, how she would appear in press and red carpets, that sort of thing. And what else we know about Capricorn Clark is she was one of the other people, including Diddy and one of his security guards, who went over to Kid Cudi's house while Diddy was essentially looking for the rapper because he was in a relationship with Cassie around the time. And so this was a person that a lot of us have been anticipating her testimony today, because a lot of us just wanted to know what she had to say. We had already heard from Cassie, and we already heard from Kid Cudi last week, and now we're hearing from Capricorn Clark. So she's really kind of tied into just different orbits, or different tangles of the web within Diddy's orbit, I should say.
And my understanding is that she starts her testimony by telling the jury that, right from day one of her employment, Combs threatened her life. And I think this has something to do with, because she had worked for Suge Knight in the past, who's a big rival, by the way, of Diddy, if anybody doesn't know.
I know, if people don't know kind of the rivalry, how it started between Diddy and Suge Knight, it's like you're living under a rock, essentially. But I thought it was interesting, just Capricorn Clark's connection to Suge Knight, and that she said that Suge Knight is the father of her best friend's children. Now, she didn't name who this best friend was while she was testifying today, but she did reveal that she had previously signed with Death Row way before she had worked with Bad Boy. So when she was hired at Bad Boy, of course, Diddy was going to have a conversation with her, and the conversation, according to Capricorn Clark, was pretty tense from what she had described. So she said this conversation that they had was just on her first day of the job as a personal assistant. So this was around the 2004 time frame. And she said on that first day that she, Diddy, and one of Diddy's security guards named Paul Alford, who we have known about for a while now, he's actually referred to by other witnesses as Uncle Paulie, that Diddy, Capricorn Clark, and Uncle Paulie all went to Central Park. And Central Park's a great place, right? But this conversation that was had at Central Park, not a great place, or not coming from a great place, according to Capricorn Clark's testimony. So she had explained that she went over to the park, and that she was kind of describing Uncle Paulie's demeanor as menacing, and she even described him kind of as a linebacker when describing just the size of him. And she said that around this time that Diddy had told her that he would have her killed if she had anything to do with Suge Knight. And this was kind of a moment in the courtroom where a lot of people were just like, oh my God, what? Because when you're seeing Diddy inside that courtroom, he's very toned down. He looks kind of like a Huxtable, maybe possibly a Mr. Rogers, where he's just in a sweater, he's in an undershirt, he's just wearing slacks. Like, he's not the Diddy that we've seen on red carpets. He's not the Diddy we've seen on social media. So he looks toned down inside the courtroom. So to hear that he had allegedly wanted her killed because she had this previous relationship with Suge Knight, it was kind of just like a, oh my goodness moment a little bit, because this was kind of the first time we were hearing about this. But according to Capricorn Clark, when this alleged threat was being made, that Diddy appeared very calm during this. And again, Uncle Paulie was calm, and Capricorn Clark has said Uncle Paulie didn't say anything when Diddy had allegedly made this threat. Instead, Uncle Paulie remained calm. He was stoic. But Capricorn responded to the threat saying, we'll have to see. And Capricorn admitted while she was on the stand that she should have been more transparent. You know, hindsight's always 20/20, but she said she should have been more transparent just about the overall relationship with Suge Knight, because again, Suge Knight and Diddy go way back, and not in necessarily a good way either. You know, they started off as as kind of colleagues in a way, or at least cordial from my understanding of it. And then things escalated. Obviously, Suge Knight used to kind of be on the West Coast side with Death Row, whereas Biggie and even Diddy represented the East Coast side, and that was Bad Boy, of course, that we know.
Another video, I said that Suge Knight should be brought to the stand because of this history with Diddy. If the prosecution wants to prove that Diddy makes real power moves and he carries his own weapons and he's menacing and threatening, the conflict with Suge is well known. They should bring Suge Knight, shackles and all, because he's in prison himself, bring him into the courtroom too to testify. Capricorn Clark, honestly, her bringing up Suge Knight and Diddy saying this to her, I don't see the relevance of it at all. It makes no sense. Actually, it's a question if you find her credible or not, that Diddy would say that she wants to work for Diddy. Diddy wants her to work for him. Why would you say this? Unless it's a joke. Moving on.
Gallery, and while we're inside the courtroom, we see a bunch of exhibit photos, and the exhibit photos are photos we've seen before. They were photos of D-Rock. D-Rock was a good friend of Biggie Smalls, according to Capricorn Clark, and this is something that we've known as well too, because D-Rock was the one who had driven down another assistant to try to find Suge Knight that one time. So everything just kind of intertwines with itself, but really I think the takeaway is just this beef carried on and on forever. And so then we saw another exhibit photo, this one of Ruben. Ruben is going to be kind of an important figure later on in Capricorn Clark's testimony. But we saw a photo of Ruben, aka Rue. He also goes by that, and that's actually D-Rock's little brother. Came and was hired after Capricorn Clark. And then we saw an exhibit photo of Roger Bonds, and he started around the same time as Capricorn Clark, and that again is another security guard. So these photos we've seen as government exhibits already. But then Capricorn Clark was asked, did you observe Diddy with a gun? And she had mentioned one particular incident, and this was during the kidnapping incident. And then she had also discussed that there was a time before that Diddy had, he was doing kind of this like press events with 50 Cent, and that there was kind of this back and forth between 50 Cent and Diddy, because we know their beef also goes back years and years and years. But according to Capricorn Clark, when she was on the stand today, Diddy, who she refers to as Puff or Puffy while she's on the stand, told Chris Lighty, who used to work with 50 Cent, that I don't like the back and forth, I like guns. And that was kind of a way that the prosecution, I felt like, was really kind of coming out swinging as far as just what did you observe with Diddy under your employment? What were the threats that were made? They really just kind of went at it right off of the bat.
No, look, for a racketeering conspiracy charge where prosecutors are saying that he operated a criminal enterprise that was engaged in a pattern of illegal activity, and there are all these underlying crimes, they have to convince this jury that he's essentially almost like a mafia boss, right? That he's a gang leader. And the more they can say who he surrounded himself with, and there was violence and threats and drugs and guns and bodyguards, that's how they build it up. Now, we'll get more into the specifics of the underlying charges they're trying to prove with racketeering, but just to give everybody a sense of what we're talking about, didn't you also describe having to take a lie detector test, this over missing jewelry, which she wouldn't be the first witness, the first former employee of Combs to testify in this trial about a lie detector test?
Right, we got a little snippet of it from David James's testimony last week, but now we're hearing it from, like you said, Jesse, another employee, this one being of Capricorn Clark. So according to Capricorn Clark, she said that she was actually accused within the first few months of her employment, accused of stealing a watch and stealing a necklace, stealing essentially this jewelry, very expensive jewelry, by the way, that was on a loan from this man named Jacob the jeweler. And so Puff, or Diddy, I should say, actually gave Capricorn Clark the jewelry to kind of hold. Again, it was on loan around this time. And Capricorn said that she had called security and told Diddy that his jewelry was missing. Diddy had told Capricorn Clark at this time to go back with Uncle Paulie, again, the same Uncle Paulie who was in Central Park that one day. And Capricorn described being questioned by Uncle Paulie for a long period of time, essentially just about where this jewelry was. She said that Uncle Paulie even came to her home, searched her belongings, something that David James had testified to last week, that his hotel room was searched through by Diddy security guards. And then we see an exhibit photo of Bad Boy Worldwide, and this later became their new corporate offices. But around the time, it was essentially just kind of this empty building, and I think it's from the address, because I can't have my phone on with me during federal court, but I think from the address, it's not too far from where our law and crime offices are now. But as far as just what had happened in this particular instance, she said she arrived to these offices. Again, these were supposed to be the new corporate headquarters, but at the time that she had went, it was essentially just this abandoned building. And when she went inside, someone locked her in from the outside, so there was no way for her to leave. So she said she was brought up to the 6th floor by Uncle Paulie, and she was met with another man. And she didn't know this man's name. She could not identify what his name was, but really just kind of spoke about his features. And she explained that he was a very wide-set man and that he was equivalent to about 6 of her. So just kind of emphasizing that he was just a heavy-set man who was smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee, I guess, in this office on the 6th floor. And so this man had told her, because again, we don't know his name, had told her that she needed to take a lie detector test. And if she didn't take the test, the biggest thing was that she said she would be thrown into the East River. Now, there was an objection that had happened after she had said this statement during her testimony, and then they had gone to a sidebar. And of course, when the sidebar happens, there's a bunch of white noise going off. It kind of sounds like static, and so we can't hear what all is discussed in the sidebar. They're kind of huddled over into the corner, so it's unclear exactly what the defense was kind of objecting to, and just the details kind of surrounding it. And so then when they get back from the sidebar, Capricorn Clark has asked whether or not she felt like the man was being serious as far as this threat goes to take this lie detector test. And Capricorn said that the man was being very serious and said she was petrified during this whole incident, and said that she ended up just going ahead and taking the test. And so she was asked questions like, did you steal? Did you come up with a plan to steal? And the results came back inconclusive. The results were inconclusive, she had said, because the lie detector administrator wasn't getting a good reading of her because she was so nervous, she was so jittery. And when I was younger, I took a lie detector test because my dad worked as a police officer. And really, if you are asked the question, did you clean your room, and you get nervous, it does kind of spike up. So that I can say is my only experience taking a lie detector test. But from what Capricorn Clark was kind of explaining while on the stand is just how petrified and nervous she was. But she said she was left in this deserted office the entire day and just kept on taking these lie detector tests all day, unable to leave. And Uncle Paulie was the one who told her she cannot leave. And so, again, the door was locked from the outside, and she was able to leave after Paulie essentially let her leave. And the next day, Paulie came back, got her again, and she went back to that exact same location, took the lie detector test over again and over again and over again. And she said that she had to come back and do this lie detector test 5 times. And these lie detector tests, according to Capricorn Clark, lasted essentially all day. And she said the reason she kept coming back and doing these tests was because she wanted to prove her innocence. She said that she didn't take anything from anyone, and she didn't go and tell the police because she had worked under an NDA. There was an objection. That objection was sustained, so the jury, won't be able to hear that part. But she said during these long days, long hours of taking this lie detector test, that Diddy didn't check up on her during this time. And then after the 5 days was over, Uncle Paulie told her that she could go back to work that next Monday, or that following Monday, I should say. But she doesn't even know where the jewelry was or if it was even ever located. And she said she continued to work for Diddy after the time, even though, he had kept making her do this lie detector test so quickly into her new position.
Okay, I'll jump in there again. Working for somebody, and in the early days, just the first day building the history with him, someone else claiming that they were being oppressed and false imprisoned, forced to take this lie detector test. Maybe she initially agreed, she wants to say, and then she found herself in a building that was locked from the outside. I wonder how she knew it was locked from the outside, if she's on the 6th floor being held, and why she returned for 5 days. She said because she wanted the job. So is that really a strong support to the prosecution's case about RICO and false imprisonment. But let's just go on.
I do want to ask you about Kid Cudi, okay? We knew she was going to testify about Kid Cudi, and she talked about him at length. Now, I think the real important part, and we know that he and Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassandra Ventura, they were involved together briefly when apparently Ventura and Combs were on a break. What can you tell us about this? Because she was describing essentially being held at gunpoint, or that she was picked up from her home by Combs. He had a gun, and this may lead into this kidnapping count. So again, one of the underlying predicate crimes for racketeering, you need to prove too, is kidnapping. There's also sex trafficking, there's drug crimes, there's forced labor, there's arson. But talk to me about what happened here. This happened, I think, in December 2011.
Yep, the December of 2011, right before the holiday times. And so as soon as we start to get into the Kid Cudi kind of aspect of Capricorn Clark's testimony, we are shown, you might have guessed it, an exhibit photo of Kid Cudi. So Capricorn Clark verified that was Kid Cudi. Obviously, the jury kind of has his face fresh in their mind. He had just testified last week. And so she again confirmed that that was Scott Mescudi, a.k.a. Kid Cudi. And she said that Cassie was seeing Kid Cudi around December of 2011, and that Cassie asked if Kid Cudi could join the two on a hike together. And Capricorn Clark actually said it was a bad idea. And you would think a hike, it's so simple, it's so easy, I don't understand what the problem is. But Capricorn said that she was concerned about Diddy finding out, and Diddy finding out that Kid Cudi was just around them. And so Capricorn said that around this time, Diddy was paying for her phone. So she was worried that Diddy might be able to see who was calling her. And so he might also be able to see Cassie's text messages to Capricorn Clark. And so Capricorn Clark said that she had took Cassie actually to buy a burner phone because she was afraid that they would all get killed.
Okay, now the reporter here saying that a hike is so easy, I don't understand what the problem could have been. I understand what the problem could have been, but again, that someone saying that their life is threatened. It's like every move you make, your life is threatened because you're the assistant to this female that is trying to date someone other than her man, which is your boss. So you feel like all of your lives could be in danger. Really? I mean, I don't know too many people that are willing to do life-threatening work, but she claims that she was, Cassie dated someone. She felt her life was constantly under threat, but she did it anyway. So how the prosecution is going to prove this or have this stand up and hold its weight with a jury is beyond me. Moving on.
She said also in his hand, she noticed that he had a gun in his hand. And so Diddy said to Capricorn, "Why didn't you tell me?" And then said, "Who is Scott?" And Scott being Scott Mescudi, a.k.a. Kid Cudi. And so Diddy then told Capricorn Clark, "Get dressed. We're going to go kill this N-word." And so I'm seeing Diddy kind of jotting notes down during this testimony. And Capricorn explained that she didn't want to go. She said Diddy made her, and that Diddy had put the gun that he had held in his hand into his waist, and that Diddy seemed pretty mad. And that Diddy has never even been to Capricorn Clark's house before, so definitely during the cross, they were like, well, how do you get upstairs? How was he let into this building? And those types of questions. But during direct testimony, Capricorn was explaining that Diddy put the gun in his lap once they were inside the car, and that there was another person there, and that was Ruben. Ruben, who has also been referred to as Rube by other witnesses, or Rube, and he was driving the vehicle. And so when Capricorn, Rube, and Diddy all drove up to Kid Cudi's then home up in the Hollywood Hills, that they were in an Escalade together, and that Capricorn explained that she wasn't able to even leave this Escalade because everything was moving so fast and there was just no conversations going on. But she said that they went to his home in the Hollywood Hills, driving from Capricorn's house over to Kid Cudi's house. Then we see an exhibit of a Google map kind of mapping out the route that they would take, even though Capricorn was like, that's not the route I would take. But there was that. And then there was another exhibit of Kid Cudi's front door. So Capricorn explained when they got to Kid Cudi's house, that she didn't even know whether he was there or not. So Capricorn stayed in the car while Ruben and Diddy went inside Kid Cudi's home. So what Capricorn did was she ended up calling Cassie on her burner phone, Cassie's burner phone, I should say. And Capricorn said to Cassie, what the F? And told Cassie that she was brought to Kid Cudi's home to kill him. And Capricorn said that she had changed the name of Cassie's name of the burner phone to her best friend's name, just so that way she can not have Diddy find out. But she could hear Kid Cudi on the phone, and Cassie told him to stop, or she told Cassie to tell Kid Cudi to stop him, because if he had gone down to his home, he might have been killed. She just didn't know what was going to happen had Kid Cudi driven to his home. And so Diddy comes out of the home, and Diddy is, I guess, yelling at Capricorn, who the F are you talking to? Diddy called this number back and then got livid, knowing that Cassie now has a burner phone and now has a number that Diddy seemingly didn't know about. And so Capricorn said that Kid Cudi then pulled up to his home, but then he sped off after Diddy, Ruben, and Capricorn, I guess, spotted him, and so they all chased after him, and Capricorn was just riding in the car. Ruben, again, was driving, and then Diddy was just in the car, too, and they chased him until they lost him, and that's when police had responded to Kid Cudi's home. And so Capricorn explained that Diddy was relatively calm after kind of hearing the police sirens, and that Capricorn, Diddy, and Ruben all went to the Key Club afterwards, and Diddy told Capricorn to essentially just get Cassie. So Cassie gets a phone call. Cassie says, okay, come get me, and that Cassie was relatively calm. That's how Capricorn described it. But Diddy had told Cassie to tell Kid Cudi not to tell the police that Diddy was allegedly behind this and not to make a police report. And Capricorn was explaining that if Kid Cudi would have went forth with filing the police report and speaking to police about who was allegedly behind this, that Diddy could have possibly killed everyone, including Capricorn, including Kid Cudi, including even Cassie, according to Capricorn's testimony.
This account of events seems to be a little off. It doesn't quite match up to what Kid Cudi said. But it's interesting about this burner phone. I think Diddy was upset that Cassie had that burner phone. I wouldn't be surprised if he found out that Capricorn Clark suggested that Cassie get this burner phone, and at the very least that they had some side communication over this. So if she wanted hands off of that, I mean, it's not her responsibility what Kid Cudi and Cassie do, but if she wanted hands off of that, she could have had her hands off of it. And also that she took the time to explain why she was still in the Escalade. She said because things were moving so fast. If you were kidnapped, then you were kidnapped. That's why you were in the Escalade. If you were doing a ride along and you never got out, maybe she doesn't want to be charged with aiding and abetting, because they're going to have some kind of DNA experts look as to whose female fingerprints were on that explosive.
And so Kid Cudi was mind blown, according to Capricorn Clark's testimony. And then afterwards, Capricorn, Cassie, and then Diddy went over to Diddy's home, and then Diddy violently physically assaulted Cassie during this. According to Capricorn, he kept kicking her. He never used his hands. She was crouched into the fetal position, and that Diddy kicked Cassie all the way into the street, essentially, that Cassie was just crying really silently while Diddy was kicking her, including even in her back. She said Ruben was present during this physical assault, but that he didn't even intervene. And so what Diddy had told Capricorn is that if you do intervene, that he would F her up too. And, you know, when Capricorn's on the witness stand, she didn't shy away from using, you know, profanity or, you know, lewd language or anything like that. She really just kind of went all in. And so just hearing that, it's just kind of like, wow, it was just pretty shocking testimony. And so Capricorn said then she called D-Rock to tell his brother to kind of intervene and to stop things. Then when she didn't see that Ruben's phone was ringing and that he wasn't intervening, that's when Capricorn ended up calling Regina Ventura, who we know is Cassie's mother. And so she called Regina Ventura on the phone, and she had told Regina, I can't call the police, but you can. Again, kind of pointing to the threats that were made, just the fear that she had had. And so Capricorn admitted that she didn't call police because the mission was to get Kid Cudi not to tell police what had happened to his car. So she felt like it would have been counterintuitive for her to call police. And it was just kind of a little bit of a weird thing to say. But essentially, the takeaway is that she didn't intervene. Ruben didn't intervene. None of Diddy's security intervened. It's something that we've heard about so many times where people are around it. They're witnessing what's going on with Diddy towards Cassie, and they're just not intervening. And so later on, Capricorn said that she did end up visiting Cassie after. Cassie was in this hotel, and her stuff was just thrown everywhere. It was smashed. It was just everywhere inside that room. And so then that's when we see another exhibit, and this is an exhibit we've seen multiple times, and that's that exhibit from Cassie to Capricorn Clark with her mom CC'd on it, essentially explaining that Diddy was threatening to release 2 sexually explicit videos of her around the holidays. So this again was December of 2011 in response to the relationship that Cassie had with Kid Cudi. So I will say those were just the biggest takeaways of Capricorn Clark's testimony when it comes to just what had happened and what she had witnessed from her side of things, just in regards to what had happened with Kid Cudi.
Okay, again, Capricorn Clark is describing this atmosphere of her feeling like her life is under high threat. Her life, Kid Cudi's life, Cassie's life. I mean, you never know how people are going to act. You're working under, again, the threat of violence. So now she's describing a situation where the threat against their lives is really on a high level. Still, she continues to assist Diddy and Cassie and be at Cassie's side. They all somehow make it out with their lives. And she was CC'd in that email that went to Cassie's mother, Regina Ventura. There's something, I got a lot of questions about that. The only threat mentioned in that email from Cassie to her mother was that Diddy was threatening to put out these intimate videos. She never mentioned a threat. From what I remember, I'm not looking at the transcript right now, but she never mentioned a threat against her life. I also kind of don't understand how someone beats the crap out of you, but they never use their hands. They kick you all the way out into the street in the fetal position. I don't even see how that's physically possible. I imagine it was a violent scene. You know, and Diddy's in a lot of trouble. Again, if I was in the jury and I heard that, it would be a little confusing. How do you beat somebody, brutally beat someone without putting your hands on them and kick them all the way out into the street? How do they move their body? Because that's what I'm hearing in my head right now. Stay tuned for part 2 of Capricorn Clark's witness testimony, her cross-examination, as well as the testimony of celebrity stylist Deontay Nash, proclaimed best friend to Cassie, as well as all the witnesses yet to take the stand. Thanks for watching. See you the next time. Keep living your life like it's golden. Peace.